in 1925, and that is why this year, the current year, 2025, is regarded as 100 years of quantum physics, right? So the United Nations has regarded this as the International Year of Quantum Physics. And across the country, I have been part of a lot of these events, which are being done by the Indian Association of Physics Teachers and many other scientific bodies. We are trying to kind of look at quantum physics at the 100-year mark, essentially. So some would say, why 100 years now, right? Why not when Einstein published his paper, right? So this is the reason why there is a very kind of nuanced and careful way we have to understand quantum physics. Now, when we say that quantum physics is the way it is, and Heisenberg, of course, the moment you give the name Heisenberg, right, the first thing that comes to mind is the uncertainty principle, right? So the uncertainty principle, though we have to be very careful in what it says, right? People often have this misunderstanding that it's saying that nothing can actually be certainly measured, right, with 100% certainty. Uncertainty principle is not talking about that, okay? Uncertainty principle is talking about not being able to simultaneously measure with 100% certainty two different complementary variables, basically, right? So it could be position, momentum, it could be energy, time, right? So it's a contingent uncertainty. It's dependent, basically. So together they cannot simultaneously be measured with 100% certainty.
But it also follow the continuity of, the conservation of energy.
Right, it does, right? But the thing is, it is not saying that each of those variables independently cannot be measured with 100% certainty. That's not what is being said. What is being said is that simultaneously, the two different variables cannot be measured with 100% certainty. Now, if we were to compare that with Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, with our traditions, we have to be very careful in how we understand this whole aspect of things, right? So, for instance, in the Nasadya Sukta, who really knows this aspect? This is not a contingent uncertainty we are talking about. You're not talking about something which is correlated. You're not talking about taking sets of variables and so on and so forth. So the moment we try to draw parallels, again, as I said across the different episodes, you have to be very careful, right? And in the Advaita Vedanta traditions, right, for instance, the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, there is this element of Adhyasa. Adhyasa is basically superimposition. Superimposition of that which is you could call it veil, you could call it falsity, over what is actually true, over what is fundamentally the reality as it is. So Adhyasa is basically superimposition. Now, many of the places, and I've seen that in many of the TED Talks as well, this superimposition and superposition, these two are conflated with each other, right? Now, there are two things I want to really clearly highlight here. One is uncertainty of the system by itself, without being correlated with anything else, is what we deal with in the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, right? The inherent uncertainty of things, or the way in which we cannot speak of anything with certainty, essentially, right? Or we cannot articulate it. That is what the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara is talking about. Adhyasa is talking about basically the superimposition of something which is immanent, which is, almost like a veil, as I said, over the substratum that we know as Brahman, right? Whereas in the case of superposition, we are talking about two different empirical realities adding up or superposing with respect to each other. So the two things are extremely different in many ways. Right? But the underlying idea, which you could say is a metaphysical resonance, is that inherently the substratum we are talking about is beyond simplistic description, number one. It's beyond determinism, of course. And as we move forward, we will see that it is also uncertain in many ways in the way we rationally think about it. And also, at times, it's counterfactual. It's not something which is intuitive or factually able to be understood all the way. So these are the various elements that within the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara and in quantum physics we do come across. Now, when we say avidya, when we say this idea of avidya, you must have heard about this in the context of Advaita Vedanta, and in the context of normal day-to-day conversation, we talk about vidya and avidya. Now, avidya is basically the root cause of seeing this emergent or immanent or veiled reality, basically. So in the Yoga Vashisht, for instance, there is a very beautiful line which is Savid Bhrantiryam Bhati Jagnamni Swarupini Swayam Cha Bhrantira Smiti Vadani Katra Nishchita. Basically, the idea is that by the delusion of your senses and the misperception of your understanding, the visible world looks a very different way. It looks in a basically the certainty aspect of it. And here I would like to highlight the word nishchita. Nishchit, right? What is nishchit? Nishchit is certain, right? Nishchit means I am certain of something. मैं इसको निश्चित करता हूँ या करती हूँ, right? ये निश्चित चीज है, right? Anishchita means that which does not have certainty, right? Uncertainty, right? So hath not of reality or certainty in it. Right? So in the Yoga Vashishta, in 7.14815, we are talking basically about the uncertainty aspect of that reality because of the veiled aspect, because of the flawed senses and the lack of understanding, essentially. Now, there is another word here which is basically Bhranti. Right? So, Bhrantiryam. So, Bhranti is basically again that aspect of illusion, right? So, the aspect that there is a brilliant illusion, right? An emergence from unmeasured potential to apparent determinacy. So, we get to some degree of determinacy, but that is in a very illusory way. There's an illusion aspect to that, essentially.